Phrack issue 70, YouTube security scene. About the author. To briefly introduce myself, I'm LiveOverflow and I make videos about various IT security topics. Here are a few. How SUDO on Linux was hacked, CVE 2021-3156, XSS on Google Search, sanitizing HTML in the client, identifying the bootloader main and find button press handler. Preamble. From BBS and text files, over IRC and books, to the modern internet with forums and blogs, hackers exchange information primarily in text form. This of course meant most older hackers prefer text, which makes it difficult to establish new kinds of media. When I started producing videos in 2015, I often got the feedback that text is superior, nobody will watch videos and I should instead write articles. So when I was asked to write about the YouTube hacking scene for Phrack, I felt like videos production finally reached some level of acceptance. While this article is titled YouTube hacking scene, I also want to include streamers on Twitch and other platforms. Who knows how long the product YouTube will survive, and I'm sure Phrack will exist long after. Given that my personal experience is biased and that history is difficult to research, this article is certainly not objective, so we will go with the French saying, preach falsehood to know the truth. So if you know it better, please reach out. Before 2014. Digging up information about hacking videos from the early 2000s is difficult, but it's clear that it was not very popular. Personally, I remember Lena's Reversing for Newbies video series from 2006 very well, but it wasn't distributed via YouTube. It is an incredibly detailed and hands-on walkthrough of Windows reverse engineering and cracking with Ollie Debugger. I have seen it getting recommended a lot over the years, indicating that there is a craving for the visual teaching approach. One of the earliest hacking show attempts seems to be The Broken by Kevin Rose from 2003. Then, in 2005, Darren Kitchen started the Hack 5 show, and it deserves a mention as it is probably the longest running hacking video production. YouTube already existed when it started, but it wasn't popular just yet, so the distribution heavily relied on torrents. Notable might also be Iron Geek, who started uploading conference videos on YouTube in 2007. His trip to NotCon 2007 might be the first ever hacking vlog. But all of these video projects were mostly just scratching the surface of hacking. Very few videos were actually digging into the technical details. In 2007, the project SecurityTube started out of India by Vivek Ramak. Probably inspired by YouTube, it was meant as a place for everybody to upload and share hacking video content. But Vivek Ramak himself was responsible for creating tons of videos. For many years, it seems to have been the best source for free video courses. But in 2011, the site slowly transitioned into the new paid courses platform, Pentester Academy. Fun fact, when I started making videos in 2015, I obviously came across SecurityTube and I tried to submit my videos there, but they were never accepted. The platform already felt abandoned and the content was kinda outdated and not the depth I was looking for anyway. Nonetheless, a very important part of video creator history. Over the years, I've been collecting YouTube channels with more or less technical security content, and to create the chart below, I looked at the year of their first relevant upload. Also, most of those channels only have a handful of videos and were abandoned shortly after. But in hindsight, I even noticed there were a few very early attempts at making more technical video walkthroughs, such as Lord Parody in 2009. Looking at the data, there appears to have been a small surge after 2010, but I think that 2015 was where the current hacker creator scene really started growing. Here's the bar chart showing the numbers of new hacking YouTube creators by year. My start in 2015. Around 2014, I started to hit a wall in my own learning progress. There were tons of written tutorials about web security, Wi-Fi hacking, Metasploit and buffer overflows, but the material mostly covered basics. To actually learn more advanced topics, I had to play war games and CTFs. I remember fondly struggling for months playing W3 Charles or IO Smash a Stack to improve very slowly. I even was a classic annoying noob, even getting banned by blah from IRC. I believe it shouldn't have been this difficult to progress. In traditional academic science community, you rely on papers to build upon prior research. And while we have equivalent resources, see for example Phrack, we are missing the educational institutions like universities to pass on this knowledge more effectively. So in the past, new people had to walk a very stony path to catch up with the state of the art. After I finally understood Red Tulip C and Rob, I felt like the stuff is actually easy, but the existing material is just bad at explaining it. Then in late 2014, early 2015, two events happened that would have a big impact on me. The first event was the growing community of programmers on Reddit called Watch People Code, a subreddit live streaming programming. While it's not about security, everybody knows that programming skills are crucial if you do any form of more in-depth hacking. The second event was GeoHot live streaming himself solving pwnable challenges from over the wire. What both of these events have in common is that it's the first time for me looking over the shoulder of a professional. I realized that all the talks, blog posts and articles only cover the results and rarely the actual process. And because I was not lucky enough to have people around me to learn from in person, watching over the shoulder of an experienced developer or GeoHot was eye-opening. To see how GeoHot was using the terminal, writing exploit scripts and navigating IDA Pro was incredibly insightful. But more importantly, it also exposed the fails and mistakes, followed by the process of troubleshooting and fixing the bugs. And this pushed me through the wall I was hitting in my own education. I was craving more. Where can I find more streams or videos where people are hacking? Unfortunately, when searching on YouTube, the only videos I could find were either Metasploit tutorials or how to use aircrackng to hack a Wi-Fi. And those topics were boring to me as I was more interested in the process of finding those kinds of flaws rather than just using what others found. Of course, I was very far away from GeoHot's skills, but I did understand Rob and I thought I could create the over-the-shoulder experience for the people coming after me, which led me to start live streaming pwnable challenges from exploitexercise.com, today Exploit Education, and cover other CTFs. However, I quickly noticed that I was terrible at streaming and soon transitioned into making scripted videos with a focus on visual explanations. Another realization I had was, in fact, I did not understand Rob and other topics properly. So having the aspiration to create better tutorials, it forced me to dig deeper, which meant this project benefited my own education too. Of course, this is me talking from my own perspective and I don't want to make it sound like I was the only one. I simply wanted to provide insight on what motivation can lead people to create videos. So at this point I would like to mention a few other folks who were making videos about more advanced topics around that time. Ginvale from the Dragon Sector CTF team, Murmus CTF, IP, Cyphertex, Zeta2 and probably many more I unfortunately never came across. Making good videos is very time consuming, especially once it's more than just a screen recording or live stream. So very few creators are able to do it over a longer period of time, and I believe John Hammond and I have the longest and consistently running release schedule. Today's scene. As has been the case with any area of hacking, commercialization also creeps into this scene. I'm not immune to this either, as the time investment is massive and has to be justified somehow. This unfortunately leads to videos that are sometimes more motivated by exposure or products rather than the pure sharing of knowledge. And it's difficult to find a balance between those opposing forces. It also led to the prior generation of free video content, SecurityTube, Cybrary or more, to put their content behind paywalls. But there is one amazing positive commercial development that I want to highlight. In the past years, companies like Google have sponsored very technical videos to share insights into vulnerabilities of their own products. Who would have thought this could ever happen when this community used to be so scared to get sued for anything? There are also new problems that come with Google, YouTube and the other large social media platforms. YouTube, for example, has a policy against certain kinds of hacking videos, which led to the takedown of several videos and even entire channels. However, it should also be noted that 99% of the time it was a clear mistake and the decisions got reversed. I quote YouTube's harmful and dangerous content policies. Hacking is a demonstration how to use computers or information technology with the intent to steal credentials, compromise personal data, or cause serious harm to others, such as, but not limited to, hacking into social media accounts. Can hacking videos be ethical or unethical? It's a difficult topic and one that I clash a lot with other creators. I do believe that there is a way to make the right kind of tutorials, and so far I haven't had any issues with YouTube. For example, I understand that Google does not want a step-by-step video guide for script kiddies to set up a shitty phishing page when phishing is the second most common source of compromised Google accounts. And to me, that is not censorship because the underlying skill is very basic web development. So to me, a phishing tutorial is kinda deceitful and unnecessarily hiding the real hacking skill, web development. But I know many of my peers disagree here. Then there is the evolution of hacker-influencer. It was important to me at the start to be a faceless anonymous, but over the years my opinion has slightly changed. I often think back to the time when I was sitting alone in my room trying to understand an article and wished I had the videos I make today. So for me it's important to use social media and their algorithmic feeds to maximize exposure, hoping to reach that kid who wants to break through the same wall I was hitting. Nowadays, I believe that my desire to have this information easily discoverable outweighs restricting educational resources to obscure or underground places. In 2019, the Cyber Mentor joined the scene with live streaming basic pen testing lessons for free on Twitch. It kind of felt like OSCP material, just in video form and free. There were earlier attempts at creating free pen testing courses, such as SecurityTube or Cybrary, and maybe others as well, but the Cyber Mentor is undoubtedly the most successful one, reaching several millions of views. This hasn't lasted long though, since building up the initial audience, he transitioned away into paid courses too. There's also some criticism regarding original content versus taking existing written tutorials and turning them into videos. Certainly there is added value in improved presentation, but there's also the ethical question about highlighting the sources. This especially affects newcomers, where sometimes it's obvious that they follow a typical outline from other material without referencing it. In the past years, there has also been an interesting development about topics covered by the video creator scene, because it has been completely dominated by bug bounties. As much as I love seeing an influx of motivated young people, it feels like this is our community's version of the get-rich-quick scam. It leads to a huge demand for paid courses and guides that directly or indirectly promise you to make you a successful bug hunter. Currently, it's very rare to see content beyond bug bounties, and I wish there was more diversity. Sometimes I also think about how hacking communities organize and how creators change this. In the past, the communities were usually divided by topics of interest, and now communities form around personalities. Sometimes this makes me a bit uncomfortable, but this also resulted in a massive increase in exposure to the hacking world. It benefits the creator when the fan base grows. It's always difficult to see cultural change when it evolves away from what we grew up with. But thinking back to my teenage years, I wish I could have been able to find places like that more easily, instead of having to wait until my 20s to accidentally stumble into it. Besides creating videos, there's also a growing scene live streaming on Twitch. Most of them work on challenges from Hack the Box or Try Hack Me, which are platforms with commercial interest. This means the streamers provide collectively free advertising worth millions for those platforms. On one hand, it's amazing to see so much content, but it's sad that less community-oriented wargames or CTFs are shown, and the variety of these topics covered is very low as well. The video style, screen recordings versus a person talking versus heavy editing, and the skill levels of creators vary a lot. And I don't mind, as variety benefits us all. I'm happy as long as more people share more of their work in video form. I even would like to see more beginners documenting their journey. But deep down, my heart beats for the senior professionals, like GeoHot at the time, who let us look over their shoulder. And there are some great channels today, such as hardware researcher Stack Smashing, Gamozo, who develops entire new operating system just for fuzzing, absolutely insane, or the Flashback team diving into their pwn2own winning router hack. Those kinds of channels make me excited. The popularity of hacking videos and the evolution of a whole creator scene was only possible due to the growth of social media platforms. Their algorithms helped us to get our videos in front of people who didn't know they were looking for them. As the internet changes fast, social media platforms change too. And right now, TikTok seems to be an interesting platform for reaching new audiences. But the short format does not allow to cover in-depth topics. Malware tech is leading the charge there with millions of views. Final words. Unfortunately, there are so many creators today that I cannot include everyone. But please know that this article is dedicated to all of you. The following people have helped me with this article by sharing their experience of fact-checking information. Alphabetical order: Blind Hacker, CryptoCat, Gamoso, Ginvale, Hacksplained, Insider PhD, Ip, John Hammond, Justin Stephen, Murmis, Cyphertex, Snaps, Stack Smashing, Superhero 1, The Colonial, Zeta 2. Shout out to the Polish and Indian video creators. I do not understand a single word, but you all seem very active and dedicated. Special shout out to GeoHot, because without his CTF live streams I would not be here. And shout out to Ginvale for being the first person I really cared about acknowledging my work. And don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. So this was a reading of my Phrack article. You can find the links and all the references, of course, in the description below. I wanted to mention a few things. So first of all, it has been always, of course, a dream and goal for myself to appear in Phrack. Of course, I would have liked to appear there with an actual cool technical topic, some cool research I did, but as you can see, I'm not good enough for that. However, I did feel very honored when they reached out to me and asked me to write an article about the YouTube scene for Phrack. I've also seen a bit of feedback about this article because people were kind of criticizing that such a casual article about YouTube is included in Phrack. To those people, I want to a bit poke back and ask, have you actually read Phrack? Because Phrack had always articles about casual topics. Since 2007, almost every issue had an international scenes article highlighting some parts of the security scene, like talking about war games or local communities in countries like India or wherever. And if you look further back, you can even find interviews called Phrack profiles about individual people. So if you criticize that there's casual content and talking about a certain area or even person, then it always has been this way. And if you go back even further, you find that almost the majority of articles were casual topics. For example, take the famous Hacker Manifesto. Imagine somebody would submit such an article today to Phrack. Everybody would say what a kiddie that is, writing something like this. But now we look back at it fondly and with nostalgia, and we feel like, yes, this is part of hacking history. And there's so many articles just showing some BBS threads, some conversations, chat messages and so forth. There's tons of content like this. And yes, Phrack has grown to be a very reputable source with amazing technical, state-of-the-art articles. But it is also the documentation of the hacking community for 35 years. So, of course, I'm biased because it's my article, but I do think that it has some sense to be into this article to document this part of hacking history, which is a new thing. It hasn't been documented before, this YouTube scene, this video scene. So I hope that with my research and reaching out to people, I was able to cover somewhat the current state and to document it for, future hackers. Oh, by the way, if you thought my article is also included in this book, in case you buy it and get disappointed, this is the summary book of POC or GTFO. So also an excellent hacking magazine, but it's not Phrack. I just like to use it as a prop in some of my videos because it looks like a Bible. I think it looks cool. So thanks so much for listening or reading my article. And if you have any feedback or know different historical events that I didn't include, maybe you are old and you know a lot of stuff from the early 2000s or maybe earlier, please do share it in the comments. If it's anything significant, I will also update it in the description. Next video when I release again a more technical video. Cheers.